The November test matches are nearly on us, and we're going to look in this video at what I think is the biggest match of November. It's certainly going to feel personal, bearing in mind the last time they locked horns was in a World Cup quarter-final in one of the greatest rugby matches that has ever been staged in Paris, where South Africa won by a single point to go on and be world champions. That fixture is going to be reignited. That rivalry is going to be recaptured at the Stade de France, and with all the injuries they've got and being a little bit rusty without playing together, I guess the question we're asking on this one is, how do France match up to the world champions, and what is the route to victory for either team? Joe Worsley, again, just to recap, because you were in France on that day when that match happened, as was I. I was down in Marseille watching England. But what do you remember of what that was like, that occasion?
I think the last time the country had felt like that was, I think, when they surrendered in World War II. I think that's what someone told me. I don't know if he was old enough to actually know. It's just been trivial. But hey, it was just the extent of the shock was that much. It was people were just so shocked. It was no one wanted to talk about it, and just people walking around in gormless expressions.
2 years ago, and what is happening now is, I don't know, how do you think the French public are feeling going into this one without Antoine Dupont, without Awini Atonio or Francois Cross, Yoram Moefana? Tomo Ramos will probably be back. He and his wife are having a child. That's why he wasn't named in the squad. But without some of those big names, Cyril Bay as well, is there a bit of nerves going into this one? Not to mention the fact it'll be the first game they've played together as a full-strength squad since the Six Nations.
Yeah, so let's attack those two things. Firstly, injuries. Very relevant issue around tight head. They've had an issue for a few years, but they've had a guy who's still hanging in there in a way, covering the cracks. They've been desperate for someone to come through. Tatafu, they thought, was the man. He's really struggled with injury for the last couple of years. Yeah, so they're going to have big issues around that tight head position. In France, it's a massive position. Normally, that and number 10 best paid position in the team is your tight head in France. It's the rock.
It's nothing to worry about, Joe. It's only Oxenche that's playing loose head.
Yeah, exactly. Nice and easy scrum time. But listen, they got Miafu, they got Tao Fafina. They can stick them behind whoever is going to play, and hopefully that would give enough solidity. Marchand's a great scrummer. That would give them enough solidity, hopefully, so the scrum doesn't become an issue. It's just, again, if they get any more injuries, if there's issues, they're down to the bare bones, I'd say, international level right now. And the quality of the tight heads can be one issue. Now, the second one is nines that they're blessed. They're blessed at 9. Luku might actually play now. We're on about missing him. He played a pretty good game against Bayonne. Bordeaux. Is it a surprise the first time they're back to that kind of level where they're smashing Bayonne? Have been playing well all season. Everyone said that Bayonne are rubbish, but also Luku's back. Were Bordeaux more competitive, more angry, more into it because they had their little petit général, their leader, back in the group? So I think he'll be involved in that squad no matter what. But again, you've got some other class acts just behind him. Serrin, Le Garrick, all these players are incredible.
Baptiste Jeannot was brilliant for Clermont at the weekend.
Yeah. He was pretty awesome as well. Sean Edwards was on about how much he loves that little niggly fight in 9. So they got oodles of talent coming through there. So really, yes, they're going to miss Dupont. Who wouldn't miss Dupont? But yeah, they're going to have a 9 who backs it up. Is going to do a good job. Now, 10, Ntamack should be playing. Jalibert obviously pulled out. I think Ntamack might have been starting it anyway. Centre, we've talked there. That's probably a tougher gig.
Fiku and Barassi, probably the two.
Yeah, I think Barassi hands down is going to play, but they're relatively similar players. But you haven't got a puncher, as they say in France. They like to use for that physical inside centre who can smash and carry. So they're lacking a puncher in that backline. You think about the wingers they've got as well. None of them are really that kind of player either. So I don't know. And ball carrier they got up front. Aldrit's an amazing, loads of actions, but he's an intelligent ball carrier as opposed to just purely explosive. Miafu might have to come in, but again, he's not match fit to play for a whole 80. So yeah, there are issues in terms of ball carrying, but if they go to that transition game, they're phenomenal at. It should be good. So they'll be looking to dominate, to win that territory battle. South Africa normally win the territory battle. I mean, let's flip to South Africa now. France, I think, are going to play the game we know they're going to play. They kick a lot more. They use pressure game a lot more than they ever did since Sean Edwards and Gautier have been there.
But they're kicking. Just to pick up on that, Joe, on the kicking, it has been just longer kicks, trying to find grass, trying to get it deep. Is that how France are still approaching things, you think?
Yeah, I think so. They want to keep the ball on the pitch to create counter-attack opportunities. If you have a contestable kick, then again, it's not a skill they're incredible at. That can fall for anybody. It can fall for you, it can fall for them. It's a bit more of a desperate act. Obviously, South Africa have mastered that part of the game over the years. Ireland aren't bad there either. But France tend to use a longer game because they got Dupont, because they got Jalibert, Burros. All these players can kick a long way. They've got a lot of players who can kick really well. And if you get into a long kicking battle and the other team comes back with a long kick, then with the players they got, they can normally win those battles because they got longer weapons, they got longer reach, and it's a battle they often win. So the opposition often will either counter-attack or come back with a contestable. And if they do a contestable after a long hit, that's going to fall around the halfway line. And even if you lose it, you're just defending around the halfway line. So, I mean, it's a battle they got a lot better at. And that a part of the game they've become a lot better at, the French team. They practice it a lot. They practice it a lot because they want to make sure the team use it during the game, because traditionally French players aren't that keen on that part of the game, but it's obviously grown in their psyche. It's part of the game they do better. So France are going to bring that, and they're going to just try and win those transition moments that give them those amazing, incredible, jaw-dropping moments we all see with the French flair. The jouet moments are going to happen around that kicking game, and obviously some launch plays and some other plays they'll come up with, turnovers, when Aldrich maybe rips out a ball and gives the offload to one of his teammates. At those moments as well, they're going to go. But listen, I think their pressure game is the key to it, the key to their game, especially against South Africa. Because South Africa normally dominate that part of the game. Before that was their major weapon, the kicking game. It's still a massive weapon. They've not gone away from it. Sometimes they've lost in the last couple of years, I think, where they've kicked less than the opposition.
Well, yeah, the game in Ellis Park, first round of the Rugby Championship against Australia, total shock to lose that, and they hardly kicked at all. And I think they learnt a big lesson that day.
Yeah, so the one-off stats I'm reading off now, that rugby's super complicated. It's like trying to sum up the economy with a couple of stats. It's impossible. Okay, it's impossible. But things give you a general guideline and a look. Okay, so these are just big macro guidelines. It's not... There's nitty gritty, there's a mixture of penalties, turnovers, there's so many different things that can go into rugby performance. When you get into individual stats, I don't believe what you hear. But there are certain factors which are important. Listen, they lost to Ireland, they kicked less. They lost that game against Australia, they kicked less. But that game against Australia, for example, they actually offloaded and made loads of line breaks. Whereas against Ireland, that was a point where they're trying to develop their attack. They made very few they made very few line breaks. Loads of poor offloads, high turnover rate. So slowly the turnover rate ratio with line breaks and offloads has been getting better and better. By ratio, I mean, when you make a turnover, if you're making a line break for each one of those, it's fine. If you're making half an offload for each one of those, it's fine. Toulouse has got an amazing, relatively high turnover rate, but incredible line breaks and offloads and out the back of it, so it's worth carrying that. A team that attacks poorly, they've got a high turnover rate, they've got nothing, they're going to get stuffed. So South Africa, for the last year and a half, have been developing their attack so they can offload more, make more line breaks. Okay, they're carrying a turnover rate that's okay. Okay, and they've still got this other weapon, their kicking game. Occasionally, I think because they've probably been emphasising their attack and trying to improve that, occasionally they let the ball drop there a bit, and they let the opposition get on top of them in that kicking game. So it's still a balance, but I think they've slowly been getting better over the last year and a half of their attacking game, and they're getting better and better at getting that level right between the kicking and judging for this game. We're going to be kicking this level, offload, line break, rewards coming out the back of it in this other game. Even during the Rugby Championship, for example, New Zealand in the first game, they was really quite close, that first New Zealand game. The second one, they absolutely wiped the floor with them. It was the last 20 minutes really where it went very much their way, but relatively low turnovers, They had a good kicking game before, and
They smoked
they
them
were
at scrum
smashing
time.
those
They absolutely smashed them at scrum time, and they won the aerial battle in a way that they didn't the week before. And this is where I have concerns. You've already mentioned the tight head position. I think they're going to go for France at scrum time, especially in the second half when they bring on outstanding. I mean, Wilco Lowe is terrifying as a prop, and he's going to be finishing the game for them. You would imagine if they go as they have done, and then, as you say, they're developing their attacking game. But if I were playing France, the people I would want to keep quiet is Penaud, Le Beep Beep, and Ramos at the back, and you can keep them quiet by sticking bombs on them like they did in that World Cup quarter final.
Yeah, it's just such a shame Atazogbi and Burros aren't fit, but they're not fit. So listen, France are aware of this. I'm sure they've been trying to work on it as much as possible. But you don't go from being an average aerial battle specialist to a specialist aerial battle guy like the South Africans are, or Burros or Atazogbi are. They've developed that over years of hard practice. I remember chatting to Sean about Atazogbi. He had a word with him 2 years ago when he first got in the squad, talking about the importance of being able to catch high balls and attack high balls. Atazogbi, I think it's a sign of the kind of animals that get to the top. He went away and he's been working hard at it ever since, every week, smashing out loads of reps, doing it intensely, correctly, working with his teammates at Po to get better. So that's how you get good at that. You've got to start at a young age and do it a lot, and get used to it and develop that skill and have that mental toughness to keep doing it, which he's done. But the scrummaging thing is a good point as well. That Australia game they lost, Australia had 4 penalties. Just 4 penalties against them. So if they start to suffer in the scrum, again, that will become a massive point as well for South Africa, a massive advantage. Australia just gave away so few penalties. They got their kicking game right. And whilst South Africa did make line breaks and offloads, they had a high turnover rate as well. That penalties, high turnover rate and lack of a kicking game is the reason they lost that game. Now, obviously, that's the recipe France want to do. They want to force those errors with their defence, turning them over when they're trying to. That extra offload isolates that runner. He gets taken down. Can you create the offload? France probably going to be less of a line speed, smashing the ball at your hands as you catch it. South Africa cause a lot of those kind of situations, but very much the breakdown where France, when you're isolated, good decision making, good stealing. They'll be hoping for that. Around that kicking game, like we talked about already, they want to win that. They've got to win that, I think, to be at the races.
And just Roman Ntamack and depending on who it is, but Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu, I mean, you've got a couple of absolute ballers pulling the strings, haven't you? It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and Ntamack was looking better at the weekend as well. A bit more like himself, gliding through holes, accelerating onto the ball. Yeah, looking good again. His crossfield kick for one of the tries.
That's the interesting bit, because like when Dupont plays, and Ntamack's just is quite happy to sit there, let Dupont be the guy that probes around the edges, and then give it to the forward runners and stuff, and then whenever and Ntamack's just there when you want to give it me. But I think, and what I noticed at the weekend is Ntamack without Dupont there sort of takes that responsibility, and I think it's going to be his ship to run.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. So we've got.
It's fascinating to see, because listen, South Africa aren't by any means. This attacking road they've gone down it's been getting better, but they still are capable of fluctuating, like we saw during the Rugby Championship.
It's trade-offs, isn't it? You try and dial one thing up, and there are opportunities elsewhere. That's the amazing thing about rugby, and that's what you coaches try and exploit, isn't it? Trying to spot the one little chink in the armour.
But I want to come back to France's issues. We're talking about South Africa a lot there. Let's get back to France. We talked about how they can win the game. Those transition moments where they just suddenly light up and do amazing things, they're easier to do when they've played together for a long time. They're easier to do when you're used to each other. The Toulouse guys being a large part of the squad is going to help. But there's a lot of players from other squads, and they haven't played together for a while. Now, week in, week out, so it's 7 months since they last played together. And one of the ways the French team can create brilliance is when they're together and they understand each other inherently. Instinctively, there's a guy in front of you who you don't play with week in, week out, and you haven't played with for 7 months. You might not be quite as quick to react as you would do after they've been together for several weeks playing matches and training, or you're at the same club. Now, those minuscule milliseconds can be the difference between being there for the offload, being there for the clean out. At the level we're talking about, that can be the difference between a player being at the right depth and making the right call to run onto the ball, the player supporting, reading what's going to happen next. Now, that's part of France's game, which you can coach through putting them in these situations together as much as possible in training. But like I say, they haven't played together for 7 months. They've had a few training sessions, yes, but there's nothing like a game, and they're going to go straight into a game against a battle-hardened team. They've played how many? 10 games?
They've played 8 or 9 games so far in 2025. In the last since July and August and September, they've played nine games, I think it is, and they've got Japan this weekend as well.
Yeah, and I think most of the players, they're going to be rested. They're going to be okay. They're going to be rested enough to be throwing themselves at this one. I'm sure of that. I know they got them. I suppose travelling from Japan, going to Japan, on top of that, isn't it? It's a bit of an arse.
Well, it's at Wembley, so no worries there.
Yeah, of course it's in England. Jesus Christ. Again, that's not bad then either. Warm up against Japan, and then cross the channel, and voila, there you go.
What I understand is they are going. What I'm hearing is and we'll wait and see when their team is announced. I may be completely wrong, but that they're going to go strong against Japan because all eyes are on Paris. They really, really, really want to win.
Oh man, I can't wait for that game. But yeah, South Africa. What did we say the other week? 1 point. 1 point win for South Africa. I said. You said a bit more. Yeah, when you say,
I think they're gonna. Yeah, I'd say South Africa by 7, and they're gonna win it in the last 20.
Yeah, it's just I can't get across to everybody back home again how important that playing together is at any sport, but especially rugby, because it's so complex. You've got 15 guys, 23 guys really in that squad, from line-out organisation, being fluid, to launch plays. Yes, it's important to be together to get those things right, but you can do that. It's that moment you're going to step up, especially the way the French play. The longer you've been together, the more capable you are at accelerating at the right moment, just creating good moments. So yeah, they're not going to be quite at the level they will be when they play Australia, for example. So yeah, that's going to be a feature.
Interesting. Right. Thank you very much, Joe. Make sure you hit subscribe on the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Check out the video on this weekend's Top 14 and Pro Dada Rugby. And make sure you join us for live rugby this Thursday and, well, every game week in Pro Dada, exclusively across the UK and Ireland.